I still remember the exact click of that lock. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic, like in the movies with thunder cracking overhead and dramatic music swelling. No, it was quiet. A small, final metallic click that somehow echoed louder than any scream I could have let out. The rain was hammering the porch roof like it was personally angry at me, each drop trying to drown out the sobs that kept ripping from my chest no matter how hard I bit my lip to hold them back. I was 18 years old, suitcase in one hand, the cheap black one with the broken zipper that Aunt Linda had bought me for my 16th birthday, and in the other hand, the only photo I had left of my parents, the edges already soft from years of me holding it too tight. Aunt Linda stood in the doorway, arms crossed tight over her chest, the way she used to do when I forgot to take the trash out. But this time, her eyes weren't annoyed. They were empty, cold, like I was some stranger asking for handouts instead of the girl she had raised for the last 6 years. "Sophia," she said, her voice flat, almost bored, like she was reading from a script she didn't even care about anymore. "You're an adult now. It's time you learn to stand on your own 2 feet. I've done enough." The door shut. Not slammed, just shut. Steady. Final. The deadbolt slid home with that same soft click, and just like that, the only home I had left in the entire world slammed shut behind me. The rain soaked through my hoodie in seconds. My sneakers squelched as I took one step, then another down the creaky wooden porch steps that I had helped paint white 2 summers ago. I remember thinking, this can't be real. She'll open the door any second. She'll laugh and say it was a joke, that I'm being too sensitive again. But the door stayed closed. The lights inside stayed on, warm and golden, while I stood there in the dark, shivering, the photo of Mom and Dad getting wet in my trembling fingers. Hi, it's Sophia, and if you're watching this right now, wherever you are, I want you to know I'm not here to cry over the past anymore. I'm not here to play the victim or beg for sympathy. I'm here to tell you the truth, the raw, ugly, heartbreaking truth about how the woman who raised me after my parents died in that car crash when I was 12 turned her back on me the second I turned 18. Let me take you back, not just to that night, but to the very beginning of everything, because maybe if I lay it all out, you'll understand how deep the knife really went. My parents died on a Tuesday. I was 12. It was raining that night too. Funny how rain keeps showing up in the worst moments of my life. They were coming home from an anniversary dinner. Dad had surprised Mom with tickets to that little Italian place she loved, the one with the fairy lights and the tiramisu that made her close her eyes when she took the first bite. A truck driver fell asleep at the wheel. Head-on collision. The police said they didn't suffer. I never believed that. I still don't. Social services called Aunt Linda, Mom's older sister, at 2:17 a.m. She showed up at the hospital the next morning with puffy eyes and a suitcase full of my clothes she had grabbed from our house. I remember her hugging me so tight I could barely breathe. "You're mine now, baby girl. I promised your mom and dad. I've got you." And for 6 years, she did. Or at least I thought she did. Those first few weeks after the funeral were a blur of casseroles from church ladies and strangers patting my head saying, "God has a plan." Aunt Linda's house was smaller than ours, a 2-bedroom ranch on the edge of town with peeling blue paint and a backyard that flooded every spring. But she made space for me. She cleared out the guest room, painted the walls my favorite soft lavender, and even hung up my old drawings of dresses and gowns that I used to tape to my bedroom wall back home. "You've got your mama's talent," she'd say, smiling that warm smile that made me feel safe. "One day you'll be designing for all those fancy New York runways." I believed her. God, I believed every word. She baked my birthday cakes every single year, not from a box, real homemade ones with buttercream frosting and my name written in shaky piping gel. On my 13th birthday, she made a pink tiered cake with little fondant high heels on top because I had told her I wanted to be a fashion designer. She signed every report card, went to every parent-teacher conference, even showed up to my middle school choir concert wearing the ugly Christmas sweater I had picked out as a joke. She told everyone at church how blessed she was to have me. Sophia is the daughter I never had, she'd say, pulling me close while the other ladies cooed. I would beam up at her, my chest so full of love it felt like it might burst. I loved her like a second mother. More than that, actually. She was my everything. But love makes you blind, doesn't it? I gave up my dream of fashion school because she said money was tight and family comes first. I remember the exact conversation. I was 15, sitting at the kitchen table after school, sketching a prom dress on the back of my math homework. The design had a corseted bodice and a full tulle skirt with hand-beaded stars. I had been working on it for weeks. Aunt Linda came in from her shift at the insurance office, kicked off her heels, and sighed that heavy sigh she always did when she was tired. "Sophia, honey, we need to talk about next year." I looked up, heart already racing with excitement because I thought she was finally going to say yes to the application I had printed out. Instead, she sat down, took my hands in hers, and said, "Fashion school is expensive, real expensive, and with just my salary, I can't do it. I'm sorry. Family comes first. You can take some community college classes online, get a good, steady job, help me around here, maybe one day when things are better." I swallowed hard. The dream I had carried since I was 8 years old, since Mom first let me use her old Singer sewing machine, cracked a little. But I nodded. "Okay, Aunt Linda, family comes first." So I worked weekends at the diner on Main Street. I wore that ugly yellow uniform with the coffee stain that never came out, smiled at rude customers, and saved every single tip in a jar under my bed. I helped with her laundry, folded her blouses perfectly the way she liked, listened for hours while she complained about how hard it was raising me after my mom and dad were gone. "You have no idea what I gave up for you," she would say some nights, wine glass in hand, staring at the TV. "I had dreams too, you know." I would sit there quietly, rubbing her feet sometimes, thinking, "I'm sorry I'm such a burden. I'll make it up to you, I promise." I thought we were in it together. I really, truly did. There were good days too, so many of them that they blurred together like a warm blanket wrapped around my heart. Saturday mornings, she would make pancakes with chocolate chips, and we'd watch old reruns of Project Runway. She'd point at the screen and say, "See that? You could do better than that designer." I would laugh and feel 10 feet tall. She taught me how to drive in the church parking lot on Sundays, yelling, "Brake, Sophia," every time I got nervous. We planted tomatoes in the backyard together one spring, and when they actually grew, she took a million pictures of me holding the first ripe one like I had won the lottery. Mia, my best friend since 3rd grade, used to tease me about how close I was with my aunt. "You're literally living the Hallmark movie life," she'd say, rolling her eyes but smiling. Mia lived 3 houses down, and we spent most evenings on her trampoline talking about boys and future plans and how we were going to escape this small town one day. I told her everything. Well, almost everything. I never told her about the nights Aunt Linda would drink too much and mutter things under her breath like, "If only your parents had left more money." I brushed those off. Everyone gets tired. Everyone says things they don't mean when they're stressed. That night, the night everything changed, it was my 18th birthday. No cake this year, no candles, just a card on the kitchen table that said "Happy Birthday" in her handwriting, and a $20 bill tucked inside. I had spent the day at the diner, smiling through my shift, telling customers it was my birthday like it was something to celebrate. When I got home, soaked from the rain that had started around 6, Aunt Linda was waiting in the living room. No hug, no "Happy birthday, sweetheart," just that flat look. "Sophia, you're an adult now." The words hit me like ice water. I stood there dripping on the carpet she always yelled at me for tracking mud on, suitcase already packed, because she had told me that morning to have my things ready just in case. I didn't understand. I still don't fully understand even now. The walk to Mia's house that night was 3 miles of pure hell. Rain poured down so hard I could barely see the streetlights. My suitcase wheels kept getting stuck in puddles. The photo of my parents was tucked inside my hoodie to keep it dry, but I could feel the paper starting to curl anyway. Every step I replayed the last 6 years in my head like a movie on fast forward. The pancakes, the sewing machine she bought me for Christmas when I was 13, the way she cried at my middle school graduation and told me my parents would be so proud, the way she held me the night I got my first period and didn't know what to do, the way she promised on my parents' graves that she would never let me feel alone. By the time I reached Mia's porch that night, I was shaking so badly I could barely knock. Mia's mom opened the door, took one look at me, and pulled me inside without a word. I slept on their couch for 2 weeks, pretending I was fine every single day. I smiled when they asked if I wanted breakfast, I helped with dishes, I laughed at their family jokes, but every night when the house went quiet and the only sound was the ticking clock on the wall, I lay there staring at the ceiling, asking the same question on loop. Why? Why did the woman who promised my dying parents she'd take care of me suddenly look at me like I was nothing? I didn't know it then, but that question was only the beginning. Because what I didn't know that day would change everything I thought I knew about family, about trust, and about who I was supposed to become. I packed the little savings I had from the diner, $427 exactly, counted 3 times on Mia's kitchen table, and bought a one-way bus ticket to the city. The ticket agent at the Greyhound station looked at me with pity when I handed over the crumpled bills, but I kept my chin up. I told myself I'd get a job, finish high school online, maybe even find a way to afford design classes one day. I was scared, terrified actually, but I was also hopeful. That tiny spark of hope was the only thing that kept me warm on that freezing bus ride. The bus smelled like old sandwiches and worn-out dreams. I sat by the window, forehead pressed against the cool glass, watching the small-town lights disappear one by one. Every mile that clicked by on the highway felt like another page turning in a book I never wanted to read. I replayed memories in my head like a broken record. The time Aunt Linda and I stayed up until 3 a.m. sewing my first real dress for homecoming, a simple navy shift with white piping that made me feel like a real designer. The way she cried when I showed her the acceptance letter to the community college fashion elective and said, "We'll make it work somehow." The way she hugged me after my first heartbreak and whispered, "Boys come and go, but you've got me forever." Forever apparently lasted until 12:01 a.m. on my 18th birthday. I pulled the photo of my parents out of my backpack and traced their smiles with my finger. Mom's eyes crinkled exactly like mine when she laughed. Dad had his arm around her waist like he never wanted to let go. "I'm sorry," I whispered to them in the dark bus. "I'm so sorry I couldn't stay, but I'm going to make you proud, I swear." The lady sitting across the aisle offered me a granola bar and a sad smile. I took it because I hadn't eaten since breakfast the day before. I chewed slowly, tasting nothing, and wondered how long it would take for the ache in my chest to stop feeling like a living thing. Little did I know the real storm was still coming, because the betrayal that night on the porch, that was only the surface crack. The real earthquake, the one that would shake the foundation of everything I believed about love and family and who I was supposed to become, was still hidden, still waiting for me in the city, in a lawyer's letter I hadn't received yet, in secrets Aunt Linda had been keeping for years. I closed my eyes and let the bus rock me like a mother I no longer had. The road hummed beneath us, carrying me towards a future I couldn't even imagine. I didn't know then that in 5 years I would be standing in a life so bright and so beautiful that the woman who threw me away would look at me and actually go pale. But that night, with $427, a wet photo, and a heart that felt like it had been run over by the very truck that took my parents, I just held on to that tiny spark. I held on because it was all I had left, and somehow it would be enough.
The first month in the city was a blur of greasy spoons, night shifts, and sleeping in a hostel that smelled like mold and broken dreams. The hostel was called Sunrise Inn, but there was never any sunrise inside those walls, just flickering fluorescent lights, thin mattresses that sagged in the middle, and the constant sound of strangers coughing, arguing, or crying in the middle of the night. I shared a 6-bed dorm with 5 other girls who came and went like ghosts. Some were running from bad boyfriends, others from small towns just like mine. We barely spoke, but we all understood the same silent language of survival. I worked 2 jobs, waitress by day at a 24-hour diner called Lucky's and cleaner by night at an office building downtown. The diner smelled of burnt coffee and old grease. My uniform was a faded pink dress that hung loose on my frame because I was losing weight from skipping meals. Customers snapped their fingers when they wanted refills, complained about cold eggs, and left tips that barely covered the bus fare. At night, I pushed a heavy cart through empty hallways, emptying trash cans, vacuuming carpets that never seemed to get clean, and scrubbing toilets until my knees ached. My hands were raw from bleach, the skin cracking and burning no matter how much lotion I stole from the supply closet. My feet blistered from the cheap non-slip shoes I bought at Walmart for $12.99. Every step felt like walking on glass. But every spare minute I had, I sketched. I carried a battered notebook everywhere, the same one I had used back home for school. On the bus between jobs, during my 15-minute breaks, even while waiting for the laundry machines in the hostel basement, I drew. Dresses with flowing sleeves that reminded me of the ones my mom used to wear to church, jackets with structured shoulders and delicate embroidery, accessories, earrings, bracelets, necklaces, anything that let my fingers move the way they once did on my mom's old sewing machine. Those sketches were my only escape. When the world felt too heavy, I disappeared into fabric and lines and color. I thought the worst was behind me. I really believed that. After the rainy night on Aunt Linda's porch, after sleeping on Mia's couch and saying goodbye to the only town I had ever known, I told myself the hard part was over. I was free. I was building something new. The city was supposed to be my fresh start. Until the letter came. It arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, slipped under the door of the tiny room I had finally scraped together enough money to rent. The envelope was thick, official-looking, with the law firm's return address stamped in black ink. I almost threw it away, thinking it was junk mail, but something made me open it. It was from the lawyer who had handled my parents' estate all those years ago, Mr. Harlan Reynolds. I remembered his kind face at the funeral, the way he had patted my shoulder and told me everything would be taken care of. Turns out there had been money. A trust fund set up by my parents, life insurance payouts, savings accounts, and the house, our family house with the big backyard and the swing set Dad built with his own hands. It was supposed to be held in trust until I turned 21. The will was clear. Everything was to be managed by my Aunt Linda as executor until I came of age, then transferred directly to me. But she had quietly sold everything the week after my 18th birthday. The house, the savings, even the jewelry my mother left me, the pearl necklace Dad gave her on their wedding day, the diamond studs she wore in every family photo, the silver locket with my baby picture inside. All of it gone. She had told the lawyer I wanted nothing to do with it, that I chose to walk away from the family assets and start fresh on my own. She signed papers I never saw, forged my signature on some, lied smoothly and confidently, the way only someone who had been planning it for years could. My hands shook so hard the paper tore right down the middle. I tried to tape it back together, but the words blurred through my tears anyway. I called her that night from the payphone in the hallway of my building because I couldn't afford a cell phone yet. My voice cracked the moment she picked up. "Aunt Linda? How could you?" The line was silent for a second. Then she laughed, a short, tired laugh like I was being ridiculous. "You were always dramatic, Sophia. I gave you 6 years. That's more than most people get. I have my own daughter to think about now. Life moves on." Click. She hung up on me, just like that. No explanation, no apology, no shame. That was the moment my heart didn't just break, it shattered into 1,000 pieces so small I didn't think they could ever be put back together. I slid down the wall of that tiny room, knees pulled tight to my chest, the torn letter still clutched in my fist. I cried until I had nothing left, ugly, gasping sobs that made my roommates knock on the door asking if I was okay. I couldn't even answer them. The woman who had tucked me in after nightmares, who had promised on my parents' graves that she would never let me feel alone, had looked me in the eye and stolen my future. She hadn't just kicked me out, she erased me. For days I walked around in a fog. I wanted to give up. I wanted to scream at the sky until my throat bled. I wanted to crawl back to her doorstep and beg her to love me again, to tell me it was all a mistake. I even packed a small bag one night, ready to take the bus back and apologize for whatever I had done wrong. But something inside me, small, quiet, and furious, refused. If she thinks she broke me, I whispered to the empty room one night, staring at my reflection in the cracked mirror, she's wrong. So I did the only thing I could. I worked harder. I sold my sketches on Etsy for $15 each. At first, no one bought them. Then one sold, then 3, then 10. I taught myself to code basic websites at the public library during my one day off a week, using free tutorials on YouTube. I slept 4 hours a night and poured every extra dollar into fabric remnants from the discount store and cheap beads from the craft aisle. My hands, already raw from cleaning, now bled from needle pricks and hot glue burns. My little jewelry line, called Eternal Threads, started with one Instagram post of a necklace I made from my mom's old broken locket. I had kept that locket hidden in my suitcase the whole time, the one piece of her they couldn't steal, because I never told Aunt Linda I still had it. I repaired the chain with dental floss and a paper clip at first, then with real findings once I could afford them. The photo inside was of me as a baby, smiling up at my mom. I posted it with the caption, "Made from pieces that were supposed to be lost," for anyone who's ever been told they're not enough. The post went semi-viral in a small way. Within 6 months, Eternal Threads had 10,000 followers. People started messaging me saying my pieces made them feel stronger. Within a year, I had a wait list for custom orders. But success didn't come without more pain. My boyfriend at the time, Tyler, was someone I met at the diner. He was a line cook with kind eyes and a quick smile. For a while, he made the long days feel lighter. He would sneak me extra fries on slow nights and walk me to the bus stop after my cleaning shift. I thought he would stand by me. I told him about the letter, about the money, about the betrayal. He listened. He held me while I cried. Then he found out the exact amount my aunt had stolen, almost $180,000 between the house sale and the trust. Suddenly, his tone changed. He started saying I was too much drama, that my family issues were dragging him down, that he needed someone with less baggage. He left me the same week my first big wholesale order came in, 50 custom necklaces for a small boutique downtown. Another betrayal, another door slammed in my face. I was 20 now, still broke but building, still crying in the shower some nights when the hot water ran out, but waking up the next morning to ship orders before my cleaning shift started. I learned to pack boxes while eating cold cereal standing up. I learned to answer customer emails at 3 a.m. when insomnia hit. I never thought I'd see the day when the pain started to feel like fuel. Every late night at the tiny folding table I used as a workspace, every rejected pitch to boutiques, every time someone left a comment calling my designs cute for a beginner, I heard Aunt Linda's voice telling me I was nothing. And instead of letting it crush me, I used it. I turned it into late nights at the sewing machine I bought secondhand for $80. I turned it into hundreds of cold emails to boutique owners. I turned it into learning everything I could about branding, luxury positioning, photography, and social media algorithms. I watched free masterclasses until my eyes burned. I practiced my pitch until I could say it in my sleep. The rejections hurt, but each one made me sharper. Each no became another reason to prove her wrong. Until everything changed. I realized that the person I trusted most was the one who destroyed me, but she had also accidentally set me free. Because without her betrayal, I would have stayed small. I would have stayed grateful for scraps, living in her shadow, apologizing for taking up space. Instead, I built something no one could take away, something that was entirely mine. Eternal Threads wasn't just jewelry anymore. It was becoming a story, my story, a story of pieces put back together stronger than before. The days blurred into months. The months turned into years. I moved out of the shared room into my own tiny studio apartment with the window that actually let in sunlight. I upgraded my supplies. I hired my first helper, a college student who packed orders for minimum wage and free jewelry. My hands healed, my feet stopped blistering, but the fire inside stayed lit. Every time doubt crept in, I remembered the click of that lock. Every time fear told me to play it safe, I remembered the flatness in Aunt Linda's voice when she said, "I've done enough." And I kept going. I kept building. Because the girl who got kicked out at 18 with $427 and a broken heart was slowly turning into someone unbreakable.
5 years. That's how long it took. Not 5 easy years. Not 5 years of overnight success or lucky breaks. 5 years of grinding, doubting, crying in silence, and rising anyway. 5 years that transformed the broken girl standing in the rain with a torn heart and $427 into the woman I am today. I'm 23 now, and today I'm standing outside the old family house, the one my aunt sold without telling me, the one with the creaky porch where that final click of the lock still echoes in my nightmares. The house looks different now. The blue paint has faded to a dull gray, the front yard is overgrown with weeds, and the swing set Dad built is gone, probably sold for scrap years ago. But I'm not here for the house. I'm wearing a custom silk dress from my own runway show last season, a flowing emerald piece with delicate hand-embroidered threads that catch the light like living vines. The fabric feels like a second skin, cool and luxurious against my body. A driver waits patiently in a matte black Mercedes parked at the curb, the engine humming softly like a promise of the life I built. Around my neck rests a diamond necklace that sold for 4 figures in under an hour last week, a signature piece from Eternal Threads, featuring ethically sourced stones set in a design inspired by my mother's locket, symbolizing pieces reclaimed and made stronger. My brand, Eternal Threads, is now in every major department store, Nordstrom, Saks Fifth Avenue, even a flagship pop-up at Selfridges in London. I just signed a 7-figure deal with one of the world's top luxury retailers that will make last year's revenue look like pocket change. We're talking global distribution, celebrity collaborations, and a waiting list that stretches into the thousands. What started as desperate sketches in a moldy hostel has become a movement, jewelry and accessories that tell stories of resilience, of turning pain into beauty, of refusing to stay broken. I came back for one reason only, to close the circle. Not for revenge in the loud, destructive way people expect, not to scream or humiliate or tear her down. I came back to stand in the truth of who I had become and let the contrast speak for itself, to prove to myself and maybe to the universe that her betrayal didn't define my ending. It was only the beginning of my becoming. I wasn't planning to see her. The plan was simple. Drive past the old house, feel the weight lift one final time, maybe leave a single flower on the porch where it all ended, then drive away into my future. But the universe has a sense of humor, a cruel, poetic one. There she was, pushing a shopping cart in the parking lot of the same Walmart where I used to work those endless night shifts, mopping floors and scrubbing bathrooms until my hands bled. Her hair, once neatly dyed and styled, was now streaked with gray and pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her shoulders were hunched forward, as if carrying an invisible weight that never let up. The confident woman who once stood in that doorway with her arms crossed, voice flat and final, looked small, diminished, like life had slowly chipped away at the armor she thought would protect her forever. Our eyes met across the rows of parked cars. Time seemed to freeze. The distant beep of a reversing truck, the chatter of shoppers, and the warm late-afternoon sun on my skin, everything faded into the background. Her face went pale, actually pale, like all the blood drained away in a single second, leaving her skin ashen and drawn. The cart handle slipped from her fingers, and it rolled forward a few inches before stopping against a curb. "Sophia?" Her voice cracked, barely above a whisper, yet it carried across the space between us like a ghost from the past. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. I just stood there, letting the late afternoon sun catch the diamonds at my throat, letting the silk of my dress move gently in the breeze. I let her look, really look, at the woman she threw away like yesterday's trash, at the life she tried to erase with a signature and a lie, at the version of me that refused to stay small. She took one shaky step forward, then another, her worn sneakers scuffing the asphalt. Her eyes darted from my face to the dress, to the necklace, to the sleek car waiting behind me. You look different." The words hung there, heavy with shock and something deeper, regret maybe, or disbelief. "I am different," I said quietly. My voice didn't shake anymore. It was steady, calm, grounded in every late night I had powered through, every rejection I had turned into fuel. I had to be, after you took everything. There it was, the truth laid bare between us in the middle of a Walmart parking lot. No drama, no raised voices, just the facts of what she had done and what I had built in spite of it. Her eyes filled with tears. For the first time in my life, I saw real regret etched across her face. Not the calculated coldness from that phone call years ago, but something raw and human. She started talking, the words tumbling out in a rush as if she'd been holding them in for years. Her daughter, my cousin, had moved away to another state and rarely called. Her second husband had left after the money ran out, citing irreconcilable differences that really meant he had found someone younger with fewer problems. The proceeds from selling our family house and the trust fund? Long gone on bad investments, medical bills, and attempts to keep up appearances. She was working 2 jobs now, one at a call center during the day and another stocking shelves at night just to keep the lights on in a tiny apartment on the edge of town. She whispered the words I never thought I'd hear from her. "I'm so sorry, Sophia. I was scared. I was selfish. I didn't know what I was doing. I told myself it was for my own daughter, that you were strong enough to make it without it. But I was wrong. I see that now." I waited for the rage to come, the burning anger I had carried for so long, the one that fueled those sleepless nights on the sewing machine, the cold emails, the moments I wanted to scream into the void. It didn't surge forward like I expected. Instead, I felt peace. A quiet, steady peace I had earned with every tear I refused to let define me, every order I shipped with blistered hands, every time I chose to create instead of crumble. That peace wasn't given to me. I had fought for it in the tiny studio apartment where I worked until dawn, in the meetings where buyers dismissed my pieces as cute but not luxury, in the nights I stared at the ceiling remembering the click of that lock and chose to keep sketching anyway. I reached into my designer bag, the one I had custom made with eternal threads embroidery, and pulled out a small jewelry box. It was simple, elegant, wrapped in soft velvet. Inside was the very first necklace I ever made for the brand, the one crafted from my mother's old broken locket. I had kept it all these years, repairing it properly once I could afford real tools, turning the damaged piece into something timeless and strong. The chain was delicate yet unbreakable, the locket now holding a tiny photo of my parents on one side and a small engraved quote on the other, engraved with a quote on the other, engraved on the other. Pieces put back together shine brighter. This was always meant for family, I said, placing it gently in her trembling hand. My touch was soft, without hesitation. But family isn't blood. It's who shows up when you have nothing. I showed up for myself when no one else did, and I'm okay with that. The weight of the locket seemed to surprise her. She stared down at it, fingers tracing the familiar shape, tears falling freely now. For a moment, the parking lot felt suspended, just the two of us and the ghosts of everything we had lost and gained. I turned to leave, the silk dress whispering against my legs as I walked toward the waiting Mercedes. The driver opened the door for me with quiet professionalism. She called after me, her voice breaking completely this time, raw with desperation. "Can you ever forgive me?" I paused at the car door, one hand on the smooth, cool frame. I looked back at the woman whose face had once been my whole world, the woman who had baked my cakes and signed my report cards, and then stolen my future in one calculated move. She looked so fragile standing there, with the shopping cart abandoned behind her, the necklace clutched like a lifeline. "I already have," I said softly, my words carrying on the breeze. Because the best revenge isn't yelling or fighting or tearing someone down. The best revenge is becoming the woman they never thought you could be, and then choosing to be kind anyway. It's waking up every day and choosing light over bitterness. It's building a life so full that their absence becomes irrelevant. I got into the car. The leather seats were cool and luxurious, the scent of success subtle but undeniable. The driver pulled away smoothly, the engine a low, confident hum. In the rearview mirror, I watched her standing there, clutching that little necklace like it was the only real thing she had left in the world. Her shoulders shook with quiet sobs, but she didn't chase the car. She just stood, smaller than I remembered, but perhaps in that moment, finally seeing the truth. And for the first time since that rainy night on the porch, I didn't feel the weight of her betrayal on my chest like a stone. I felt light, unburdened, free in a way no luxury deal or runway applause could ever fully capture. As the car merged onto the highway, the old town shrinking in the distance, memories flooded back in waves, not with pain this time, but with clarity. I remembered the exact feel of the rain soaking through my hoodie that night, the $427 counted 3 times on Mia's table, the moldy hostel where I sketched between shifts, the letter that tore in my hands, Tyler walking away when things got too dramatic, the first Etsy sale that brought tears of disbelief instead of sorrow, the late nights learning SEO and photography on free library computers, the moment a boutique owner said yes after 20 no's, the first time a customer messaged me saying my necklace helped her through her own family betrayal. Every scar had become part of the design. Every setback had taught me resilience that no formal education could provide. Without her betrayal, I might have stayed in that small town, grateful for scraps, designing nothing more than weekend hobbies. She had accidentally set me free to become something bigger, a creator, a survivor, a woman who turned pain into purpose. The drive back to the city was peaceful. I watched the sunset paint the sky in golds and pinks, the same colors I often used in my collections. My phone buzzed with notifications, another sold-out drop, a message from my assistant about the new retailer meeting, a DM from a young designer asking for advice on starting from nothing. I replied to a few, offering the encouragement I once wished someone had given me. That night, back in my beautiful apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city lights, I sat at my workspace, no longer a folding table but a proper studio with the best tools money could buy. I sketched a new piece inspired by the day, a pendant shaped like a broken chain being reforged into wings. It would be called Reclaimed Light. I finally understood. Sometimes the strongest revenge is living, thriving, and never letting anyone steal your light again. It's not about making them suffer, it's about refusing to let their darkness dim yours. It's about proving that kindness after conquest is the ultimate power move, because it shows you've risen above the need for their validation or their pain. If you've ever been kicked out, looked down on, betrayed by the people who were supposed to protect you, or told you weren't enough, keep going. Your luxury life isn't just about cars and diamonds and runway shows. It's about the inner peace that comes when you realize your worth was never theirs to take. Your version of this moment, standing tall in the life you built, is coming. It may take 5 years, it may take longer, but it's coming. Just don't let the people who hurt you keep the keys to your future. Take them back, one sketch, one late night, one small win at a time. Pour your pain into something beautiful. Turn your why me into watch me. Build something so authentic and so strong that even those who tried to break you can't look away. And when the day comes that you face them again, whether by chance in a parking lot or in your own heart, choose the high road. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. Because carrying hatred is the real prison. Forgiveness, true forgiveness earned through your own growth, sets you completely free. This is Sophia. The girl who got kicked out at 18 didn't disappear. She evolved, she created, she rose, and she chose to shine anyway. Your story can do the same. Start today. Sketch your future. Ship your first piece. Keep going when it hurts. The circle will close in ways more beautiful than you can imagine. And when it does, you'll feel light, too.